The delightful thing about having so many talented people that share with us. I don't have to have his talent to enjoy his talent. Do you see what I'm saying? That's why it's so beautiful. We all have our own talents and gifts to give because we get to experience God in many, many expressions. As almost all of you know, several of us had the blessing of spending this past week at the Big Sky Retreat in Montana.
Yes.
Oh. We were rather enthusiastic about it. When I knew I was going to be booked for this slot, I went, I'm going to find out just something wonderful that I'm going to want to take home and share. Well, it would be like trying to describe the ocean to someone, you know what I'm saying? And so I was thinking of the sun with the rays going out in every different direction, and I went, I need to pick a ray. Just let me take one little taste, one little flavor of what we got to experience. And as Clarence was saying, many seeds were planted. So we know with our ears and our hearts open, we will be reaping the benefits of such a rich experience for as long as we are willing to do so, as long as we don't box it up and say we know what it was and what's the next thing, which we tend to do. So if we can let it keep blessing us and keep going and looking at it and feeling into it and being willing to meditate on this thought or that idea or that feeling, we will be blessed for many years to come. The title of the retreat, I can't sum it up for you. I'm going to take one element of what I experienced that I would like to just focus on today. But the title of the retreat was The Journey to Love. Now, my experience has been there's the title, and then there's the theme that emerges on its organic own throughout the week. And the keynote speaker was James Mellon, who was, I don't have enough superlatives for how he presented, what he presented, how he spoke, what he said, what he made us feel. But the core of it all was to really let yourself feel into the I am God, the audacious, spiritual willingness to consider what that means. And to actually be asking yourself, who am I? Not the way my dad said it, who do you think you are? It wasn't like that. It wasn't, who do you think you are? And why does that question ever come up in a negative way, I would like to know. What if we took away all of that old stuff and said, who do we think we are? And then to move the thought away, who are we? Who are you? And to consider, what does it mean if you say, I am God? Well, I'm watching all this other stuff drop away and say, dropping that limitation. I was getting dressed this morning and all these thoughts are stirring around in my head. And I started thinking about the word limitation. And you know in French how the word the is le, or la, or if the next thing it's going to describe starts with a vowel, it's L apostrophe. So I said, ooh, limitations, the imitation. The imitation. So what if our limitations are those imitations of the truth? They're not the truth. The limitations are not the truth. They're the imitations, they're the self-imposed imitations of the truth. That's why another one of those lovely acronyms someone came up with was sin is self-imposed nonsense, right? There's all these wonderful little things to help us remember what we aren't. So part of saying, what am I? Sometimes that's a little daunting, and you have to start saying, let me pick this up. Just anybody into Marie Kondo, let me pick this up. Does this serve me anymore? No. Can we do that with our thoughts and our belief systems? BS, another acronym, belief systems, and say, no, I don't need that anymore. So I'm going to let that go. That's a former limitation. And I found that for myself, I would tend to get overwhelmed with the world because of my past baggage that I was carrying around with me. And I pictured, have you ever seen these videos, or perhaps you've experienced this yourself, where you take home an animal from the shelter and they're in this little cart and you take them into your home with all this welling up love inside of you, ready to love this little being. And you open the door and what happens? They usually stay there for a while, don't they? And I think I spent a lot of my life in a crate. I spent a lot of my life being scared to go explore. That animal in the crate has no idea all the love that's waiting for them. And that patient one, that other part, that God that knows all, is sitting there saying, I'm here. I'm waiting for you. You are free when you're ready to be free. You have all this love, you have treats, you have play, you have toys, you have a comfy bed, and I will just wait. And in your time, when you're ready, you'll come out of the crate. And I think a lot of our spiritual growth is reminding ourselves to come back on out, that there is so much to explore. There is so much, and we have not even begun to feel the joy that is available to us, the love, the play, I get excited when I think about it. And I think that's the shift we need, is to be so focused on the passion for exploring life that the crate doesn't feel like the place to be anymore, and it doesn't fit anymore. And it's time to step out. It's time to step out. And God, in infinite patience, the inside of us, God inside of us is infinitely patient and saying, you'll get it, you'll get there. You know that crate's not real, right? I had a farmer friend in Iowa that was trying to explain to me just how, his words, dumb animals can be. I think they're amazingly intelligent. But as an example, to his point, if you took a turkey and you drew a circle around it on the pavement in chalk, it would stay inside the circle. It would think it could not step outside the circle. What if we really got that the self-imposed limitations, that's all the power they actually have over us? It's all the stuff we told ourselves, all those, there's something in there about all the words everyone else told you that became your belief systems. And it's funny how we take these things on and keep them long after they're needed. When I was 6 years old, I fell down a flight of stairs, and I really messed up my spine. And they put me in the hospital. It was the decade of the 60s. And, now they would handle it in a completely different way. But they didn't work to strengthen my body. They kept saying, oh, you can't get up yet, it would hurt you further. In their ignorance of how to handle me, and not that intelligence wasn't out there yet, I don't know, but the doctors with whom we interacted just kept me confined for this amount of time, and I didn't walk for close to a year. And so during that time, there was everyone taking care of me. They would carry me. When I was released from the hospital, they would carry me from my bed to the bathroom, to the couch, to the kitchen table, whatever it would be, and would not allow me to stand up and walk. Once every blue moon, they would take me to the doctor, and they'd stand me up and tell me to take a few steps, and they were doing this, and then, and so, you know what that does to your psyche after a while. So I had a funny memory come up for me where I was on the couch, and my mother was in the kitchen, and she was on the phone. And I wanted something that was on the other side of that coffee table. And I was like, and so I kind of slid off the couch, and I kind of found my way over. I don't remember if I crawled or walked or held on or what I did, but I made my way to the thing I wanted and creeped back and got back on the couch. And I realized I was scared that my mom would find out that I got up, right? And so what am I doing? I'm honoring her belief in my limitations. Instead of saying, you know what, Mom, I could do that. I thought I would be disobedient if I didn't stay true to her concept of what I could do. How much of that do we do to ourselves? Boy, did that make me think when I had that realization. I went, oh my goodness, I was propping up her disbelief in me. And she was a wonderful lady. We were, going by the wisdom of that day or what the doctors were telling her or whatever it might be. But I thought obedience was so drilled into me that took precedence over, guess what I can do? And so I stayed immobile way longer than I probably needed to. And I was so young, I can't tell you what that looked like. I do know eventually I walked, and I walked all kind of like this for a while, and I had to work that out. It took a few years. I had a knee turned in. I had all kinds of weird stuff going on there. But it took me a long time, but I found my way back. But I also realized I kept getting the message of, oh, you're the youngest, many limitations, many lines drawn around. You can't do that, you shouldn't try to do that, you'll hurt yourself if you do that, etc., etc. And so, we grow up, and whatever your stories are, I'm sure they're similar, right? You hit a point in your life where you're in your 20s and you're going, but what if everything they said isn't true? And you throw it all away, baby with the bathwater, right? Because you have to go the opposite direction. That's just part of life, apparently. And, and you start exploring some things on your own and all this. But this voice is still back there, right? This voice is still kind of back there. And a lot of our spiritual journey is learning to go, nope, that doesn't fit. Nope, that doesn't serve. Because you don't really become a spiritual adult until you're willing to take responsibility for what you're thinking and believing. It's not about how many people told me or how severely that message came across. There is some point at which I choose to carry it forward or I don't. And that's on me. That's on me. And that's the good news and bad news, right? It feels like bad news because, oh my God, that's a lot of work. But the good news is, we're free, right? That's just that circle on the ground. That's that imitation of truth, that we accept it as the truth. And that is why, yes, it's helpful to dig up those things and go, oh, wow, that's why I thought that. But really only so that we can understand how little power it actually had. And that is also why, since all those limitations are not true, but imitations of the truth, that you can have transcendent moments where you throw out 20 things all at the same time. We think, I've done a lot of the deep diving and excavating and healing, and there is a value to that. But I have also learned there are these times where grace prevails because you have such an elevation in your thinking that you can see the illusion and clear out a bunch of things all at once. And this, I found, it's like, I like Word documents and I'm typing and I was looking at that and going, that's like that find and replace in the Word document where you go, every time you see an instance of this, we're going to take that out and replace it with this. And I think that's what happens, is that as we learn, as we grow, there comes this grace where you don't even have to remember 90 things that happen to you and go through and negate each one. There's that grace where you say, if it was not serving me, I don't need it anymore. And it doesn't even matter who said it, why they said it, etc., etc. But this is my truth, and I stand in my truth right here and right now. And as I move forward, I move with the grace of God in me and through me. I move as God. And oh, I want to explore that. I am so excited about exploring what not being limited is and stepping into, instead of, I am this little fingernail molecule of God. No. One of the things that was repeatedly said was, sometimes people will say, I'm a drop in the ocean. I'm a drop in the ocean. I'm part of the all. But they were reversing it and saying, no, all of the ocean in a drop. All of the ocean in a drop. And that's what I'm so excited about experiencing that. When I was 19, and these are only a couple of the physical challenges, apparently that was one of my ways of learning. When I was 19, I was in a bad car wreck, and this guy, I was going 30 in a 30 zone in Iowa on an overpass, and this guy absolutely creamed me from behind. They estimated going between 80 and 90 miles an hour. He was under the influence, and he almost pushed me over. I was able to, and I had premonition that it was going to happen. It was interesting. Anyway, I bumped up against the curb and was able to keep the wheel and get straight, and he pushed me for a while because he was going so much faster, and then finally fled the scene by pulling a U-turn, a witness said. At that point, I didn't know, I just knew he wasn't pushing me anymore. Had whiplash all 3 zones of my back and was flat on my back again for 2.5 months. Well, so same thing almost, in that the doctor that treated me did not try to get me strong again. He kept saying, how do you feel? I feel terrible. I'm in a lot of pain. Go back to bed. So they didn't rehab me. They didn't get me strong. They didn't say, yes, you can use those muscles. Yes, he would say, if it hurts, don't do it. Well, everything hurt. So I was once again confined by someone else's belief system. Again, I'm not a victim. There's a reason all this stuff happens, right? In my spiritual journey, I say, I can look back and go, why did I make everyone the authority in my life? I need to question every authority. And if I decide this is a valid source to have a voice at the table that I am head of, then I will give credence to it, and I will listen to what they say. So at the time, I spent my time in bed. Then we moved. We moved to Dallas. Again, everybody's saying, don't lift that, don't do this, don't do that. Okay, so I go back to college, and I get in a stage movement class. And first, I want to tell you that the first thing she taught us was the Alexander method. I don't know if any of you are familiar with this, but the first thing is, you imagine there's this golden thread, and it's pulling up through the top of your head, and all of a sudden, you're standing taller. That felt, and to this day, often feels so unnatural to me, because I was not taught to stand up straight, not emotionally and not physically. Emotionally, I felt like I had to protect myself. And what do we do when you do that? You do this. So I tend to have very poor posture. And to stand up straight didn't feel right. It felt like I was putting on airs. Just to stand up straight. It was like, what are you trying to throw your chest out? What are you trying to be something you're not? And so I have to remind myself to this day, line up, tuck your pelvis, stand up straight, open your chest. My God, you're breathing. This is your core. This is the core of your being. How can we feel pride in who we are? Would God do this? Oh my gosh. God's this. God is opening up and expanding. So if I really want to understand to step into my godliness, I need to own that. So that was the first thing she did. But I want to give you another piece that has stayed with me for so long, because it's about perception. It's about perspective. She had us, I was still cripped up, as you can imagine, because I'd never worked out all those kinks from the accident. And she said to us, okay, bend over and touch your toes. Go as far as you can. If you can't get them, it's okay. I was 23, 22, something like that, and I went like this. That was it. That's all I had. And she was like, okay, this is interesting. So she says this. imagine, okay, so I'm reaching, right? I'm trying to get my toes. She says, imagine that you're trying to put your chest on your thighs. And I went like this. And I went, oh my gosh. Because it made me think I had that capability all along. I had that ability. So what is the difference? It is my thinking in 2 or 3 seconds have lapsed, and suddenly I can do this. The truth is I could do it all along. So it's a shift in perception. Maybe, we still need to work out this, or we still need to do that, and I needed to stretch further, and now I can touch the ground at my age. But I'm like saying, what shifted in those moments? And I have thought of that, I cannot tell you how many times, that it was always within me to do that. It was just why don't you try it this way? Why don't you try it that way? And when I believe that when we see someone else display talent, and we see someone else display a skill, and we hear them tell us something that is so magnificent, it wakens something in us, it quickens something in us, and allows us, if we let it allows us to shift and say, something else is possible. What is possible? I think possibilities is kind of the opposite of limitations. It's saying, they talked about the quantum field while we were in the retreat. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. You put that hand in hand with I am God, now we've got somewhere to go. Now that's the juice, man. The juice is going now. And that's so exciting to me, is to think, can we get excited? Because that is an energy. There is an energy that lifts and makes more things possible, more things perspective. You can see more from the top of the mountain. We saw that physically. The higher you allow yourself to go, the better perspective you have on more things. And beholding beauty, of course. We can never leave out those things that spark joy. When I was talking about the dog and that sort of thing, one of the things I've so enjoyed is you get reunited with your pets when you go back home. And our little dogs are full of energy. They are bound, and they love us. They love being in the house and being cuddle buddies and all this sort of thing. But if you open that back door, you better stand back, because they cannot burst out of the door fast enough. Sometimes we have a rabbit in our yard, so they do what I call the rabbit run first off, and that is, I'm going to run the length of the yard this way and the length of the yard this way and make sure there's no rabbit that I can chase under the fence. And so 9 times out of 10 the rabbit isn't there. So they come bursting out in the backyard, and Midgie especially has started doing this lammy leap that she does, and so she'll run up there and she'll start going boing, 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 and she's going down the yard. It's the cutest thing to watch. And I'm going, she is in the joy of life. She's going, this is my backyard, And I'm like, that's, to me, I contrast that with the dog in the in that little cage. And I'm like, what if instead of being afraid of our allness and letting that intimidate us, what if instead we say, oh my gosh, I get to run and explore and figure out, what am I really? And every day that answer could be different. There might be a rabbit out there, and there might not. But it's the joie de vivre, as they say, the joy of life, truly embodying that. You need to know what lights you up, right? And isn't that a lovely task, that our spiritual journey is about finding out what lights you up and doing more of that? And then all those limitations melt into nothingness. There is no chalk line. There is no imitation of truth. When you're so focused on the joy of life, It doesn't matter if there is a rabbit or not, right? That's not about the truth. It's about the joie de vivre. I am free of the house. I know where I am. I'm happy to be here. So can we, where is that in you? Where is that in your body? Where is that in your spirit? The joy of life. And so let's take those thoughts into meditation at this time. The lightness of being. The lightness of being. Being willing to leave behind what drags you down. You don't even have to focus on it when your focus is the lightness of being. I am the all. You are the all. We are the all together. And can you see what would make you bound and leap like a lamb? In your heart, in your spirit, in your thoughts. And some people's personalities are just, they can be quietly joyful, and that's fine. It goes hand in hand with peace. It goes hand in hand with that. So the divine expression of joy is sometimes quiet. Quiet knowing that all is well. We've been given this incredible place to experiment and play and try things on and discard things and enjoy each other and see that light of truth in each other. Truly, that namaste is the light in me beholding the light in you. And it is my great joy to play with you, with what lights you up, and have you recognize that in me. And as a community, being willing to light each other up and hold each other's concerns in deep prayer and love and connection. And what if, whatever age you may be, and whatever age I am now, if I can say, what haven't I done that I really want to do? What would be fun? It doesn't matter if I'm good at it. What would be fun? What would that look like? And also, what would feed my spirit? I might not even call it fun per se, but what would feed me? What would make me feel fulfilled? What thing have I always been wanting to do, be it writing or singing or trying some new something out? Nothing is holding you back. Nothing. The God self in you is patiently waiting for you to step into it. The God self in us waits patiently for you to step into your own. For us to be that which we are in truth. To be living, believing that God self. You don't see the shadows or experience the shadows when you're facing the light. And while we're on earth, we may have those moments when the illusion feels very real, and we honor ourselves and our process. And we draw on those ones that hold the vision for us. And we draw on that highest self that is undisturbed by that temporary misalignment. We're right where we need to be, but just the temporary feeling of our humanness. Another phrase that came up a lot was fully human and fully divine. So allowing ourselves to be fully human, but never giving up that fully divine. Everything that delights you is part of you. Everything that lifts your spirits is part of you. Everything you admire, that music, that art, that landscape, that beautiful mountain, it's all within you and resonating because something in you recognizes it. That is me. That is part of me. I love it and embrace it in my experience. So we shed easily and freely and with gratitude those things that no longer serve us. We take a deep breath and stand tall and watch that golden thread, our highest self, pulling us upward, reminding us how to align with truth. And our lungs have more capacity, and our spiritual selves have more capacity. And our heart is more open, and we feel our worthiness. We feel our own presence more rooted in truth. And the power, just the fuel to do good in the world, the fuel to feel good in the world. We breathe again. And we affirm in this time that any and all illusions, any and all limitations, imitations of truth are just falling away at the pace that is perfect for us in our expression. And that as we breathe in the excitement of discovering the allness. And as unlimited as it is, we can delight that all of us and many more are out there exploring it and sharing the little gems they find along the way. And we are so grateful for any kind of connection we have, be it one-on-one or these marvelous group sessions that we get to have together. Acknowledge how much they bless your spirit. Every word said, every deed done, every smile given, every hand extended matters. Matters. And feel your heart cleansed because you have chosen for it to be so. See it in its true beauty as it always was, shining ever brighter, being present in the here and now. And we affirm, and so it is. And let's take all that very powerful, elevated energy that you are putting into this room right now, and let's enfold our loved ones. And you may say their name